Welcome to Sound Podcast, where we are anything but silent. I am your host tonight, Mark, and I am so sad that my friend Sabrina, who also co-hosts about The Amazing Race, is not able to be here today. But guys, we have some people that I absolutely adored, fan favorites, the second place team on The Amazing Race 35, Joel Strasser and Garrett Smith. How are you today?
Hello.
Doing great. Good to be here. Thanks.
Nice. Have you been since it's now the show's been off the air for about a month and a half? How's life changed? Are people spotting you everywhere? And how does it feel to be celebrities now?
well, first of all, we just finished fighting about a week ago. We haven't seen each other since the race. No, I'm just joking.
It's like it's a perfect race. So you're like, yeah, we never fight at all, and then you just fight now.
No, we're still hanging out all the time. Probably too much, but we have a blast together. So it is kind of funny though, because we have been recognized here and there, and that's a strange thing.
Yeah, I was at a basketball game, a Boise State basketball game a week ago, and Boise's not a big area to begin with compared to like Brooklyn, for example, and places like that. But I felt like I couldn't even get around that place without getting stopped over and over again. Oh, the Amazing Race guy. I got talked to by so many people. It was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are super recognizable too. I mean, the big iconic beard. You saw the mustache, Garrett, and you were talking about how you grew it. And you said it was a bet, right? Originally.
Well, it was a challenge, I guess. Strasser dared me to grow it for a full year without trimming it, and so I went a full year, and the race happened kind of in the middle of that process, and November was the full year, and I still haven't done a thing to it. It's still, it's like I can touch my ears with it now. I'm just trying to get it to where I can tuck it behind my ears, and then I'll be happy.
It's so funny. Sabrina, I was like, you should buy a fake beard once we established we were going to do a podcast. So everyone had facial hair today. Again, Sabrina can't be here, but I would have loved to see what she would have found.
Yeah.
I thought she would get a ZT Top beard or something like that, So let's get started. With easy stuff. Obviously, when you guys found out you were cast on the show, did you guys know that it was going to be you were going to be using planes or charter planes again?
We were hoping, but they didn't tell us. We were thinking, okay, I think COVID's over enough that we can get back to normal. That was our hope. It wasn't until we showed up in LA that they kind of filled us in. Right?
Yeah. I think it was right before the filming started is when they told us, hey, this season is going to be a non-COVID season, back to booking your own flights, and every one of us was just excited for that. That's a big part of the race. That's a big part of not only the strategy for the teams, but it adds a lot of fun for the everyone to watch. The drama that can happen with that is exciting.
I think most of the fun of the Amazing Race does happen at the airport. Are they going to make it in time? Public transit and also airport transit are always the most fascinating things to the race to me, and I'm happy it happened because you guys were part of some more interesting things recently involving that.
Yeah, not to mention cab drivers. Actually, to mention cab drivers, because they didn't have a lot of cabs during the COVID seasons, and cab drivers make a big difference. A good cab driver makes all the difference.
And as far as booking your own flights, it gave us the opportunity to play a prank on Anna Lee.
Right.
Yeah, you have to tell us.
Gosh. Strasser and I love doing pranks. Strasser pranks me all the time. It's been a while, so I should probably watch my back. But he pranks me quite often. And so at one point, we had this idea to play a prank on Anna Lee. I think Strasser brought it up. We got to the airport knowing that we were on one of the later flights, and Anna Lee was also on the later flight, but she was trying to get on standby for an earlier flight. So Strasser's like, when we get there, let's tell Anna Lee we got on that earlier flight. So we walked in and we talked to Steve and Anna Lee, and we're like, oh, are you guys on this flight too? Yeah, that's awesome. And she's like, wait, what? You made this flight? Her eyes turned red.
She was already hot under the collar because the lady at the ticket counter was not being helpful. I could see, when you just look at somebody and you already know. Yeah. The ticket agent was just completely flustered. Anna Lee's trying to get on standby. The lady's refusing to put her on standby. And we're like, oh, yeah, you guys made the early flight with us? She about came unglued. But then
we didn't let that go on very long before we cut it off because we could tell it was really working her up.
And I'm surprised they didn't use that they never put that in the show. However, they did use the audio from it in one of the very first promos that came out. You couldn't see the video, but you heard Annalee's like exclamation. I can't remember what she said, but as soon as I heard it, I remembered that was the airport.
I think she said, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, that's what it
was. And we immediately were like, "No, it's a joke. We're just joking, Annalee. We're on the late flight." And then she actually laughed about it, and she said, "You know what? Thank you for doing that, because that kind of eased the tension. Like, it kind of brought her back down. She's like, okay, you know, everything's going to be okay, and it's not that big of a deal." So she actually appreciated it in the end, but it was fun.
I mean, I feel like the U-turn really did a number on her to become like super Annalee.
Yeah.
And were they always, because it seemed like they were a team you guys were working with a lot, but also not necessarily a lot. Was that the case?
I think that the U-turn actually solidified our friendship, which isn't usually the case. Most people get pissed off when someone U-turns them. I think that Annalee respected the fact that we were very upfront about the U-turn, and that we told her straight up, you are the team we're the most scared of. At that point, Greg and John had not emerged as the threat that they were yet.
They were about to. I think that leg is when they did it, right?
It was when that leg was their first place.
Yeah.
And so, but we became, and we were always close to Steve and Annalee.
We were always jumping over each other. They were either right ahead of us or right behind us at that point of the show. And so that was in our minds. We thought they're the ones that we're battling with the most. We've got to find a way to set them back enough to get that lead on them. So that was kind of our whole strategy on it. And I know there was a lot of talk about the strategy of, do you tell her or do you lie to her about it? We had talked about it the night before. Yeah. We knew she was going to confront us because that's Annalee. Annalee is very competitive. She's very in your face. She'll just get up on you and say, "Hey, what's going on? What'd you do?" We knew it was going to happen, so we were prepared to answer. And our thought was, we're going to be honest from the start, because chances are somebody's going to lie.
Yep.
And we'll use that to our advantage later on if we need to, and say, "Hey, Annalee, remember, last time there was a U-turn, assuming there's another U-turn, last time there was a U-turn, we were honest with you. Those guys lied to you. We should U-turn them, not us." So, I mean, we were kind of playing strategy there, but we just knew we were going to be straight up about it the whole time, because we liked Steve and Annalee. They're great people.
Yep.
But we did feel like they were a threat to us.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Like, I feel like you have to play the game with the people that you have to play the game with, and you guys were vibing well with them. I feel like your energies were very much complementary to most of the teams. It looked like, like everyone had it seemed like everyone was like, "Oh yeah, the Beard Bros are good guys," you know. So
we never had any conflicts, did we? I don't think so. I don't think anybody ever pissed us off, or we ever pissed anybody else off.
Yeah, I don't think so either. We had a great relationship with everyone, and I mean, there was a lot of times. In reality, maybe I should have been mad at Strasser a few times because there was times when a team, something could have happened to really cause some bad drama between that team, which could have set them back further. And Strasser stepped in and squashed it and said, "Hey, you know what? Just calm down. Everything's going to be okay." And Strasser really helped the other teams with their relationships and staying close to each other in the end. One that I'll mention is when they were searching for the tiles. That was a stressful situation, and we got there second.
Yeah.
And Strasser was searching for a long time, and
longer than anybody.
One team after another found their tile. Pretty soon, there's 3 teams left. We're one of those 3 teams. Lena starts having a breakdown where she's just stressed, overwhelmed, and she actually, I think Strasser said she sat down behind one of the walls and was just in tears. Now, we could use that to our advantage and say, "Okay, you have your breakdown while we hurry and find our tile." But Strasser stopped, and he went up to her, and he said, "Hey, you're going to be all right, Lena. Get back up. Keep moving. You're going to get it. You're going to find it. Keep looking." And that could have, in the end, eliminated us. Luckily, it didn't. But, I mean, that's the kind of guy he is, We're not going to let people suffer when we could potentially help them out in a difficult situation. And in the end, we were safe, and Lena got back up, found her tile, and Victor and Jocelyn ended up eliminated in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, now hearing you talk about it, I feel like that was probably a really stupid thing to do.
I want to actually talk about Victor because in the first leg, after every team thinks they found out what the unscramble was, Victor comes up to Joel and is like, "It's City of Angels. It's Bangkok." Yeah. Did that happen immediately after everyone left? It looks like it happened immediately after.
Okay, so it was really strange because nobody knew what to do. And if somebody went and got in line to make their guess, everybody else like went and got in line with him, even though they didn't know the answer.
Right.
And they kept doing that, and it was really weird. I'm like, why get in line if you don't know the answer? Well, it was actually Chelsea that came up with City of. Chelsea and I had been off to the side, kind of bantering and bouncing ideas off each other. Chelsea's like, it's City of something. And she's like, City of Flags? And I'm like, what is City of Flags? And so then I said to Victor, it's City of something. And then right after that, he was like, City of Angels, Bangkok. And so what I should have done in that moment is just been like, you're absolutely right, Victor, let's go. But I saw everybody in line, and I'm like, they don't know the answer, so it doesn't matter that they're in the line. I'm gonna just verify. And so I did one of these ANG. Yep, sure enough, it is for sure City of Angels. I go get in line, and I'm like, doesn't matter, because no one in front of me knows it except Victor and maybe one other person. And that one other person happened to be Todd, who told everybody. I'm like, okay, now I'm screwed.
Which, I didn't agree with that strategy. That strategy didn't make sense to me, for Todd to tell everybody to get to the front of the line, because Todd could just wait for everybody to get it wrong, and then he gets it right, and now he has a lead on these 5 other teams. By telling them, now it's just a race to the airport, because now all the teams know everybody's getting done at the same time, and everybody's just racing to the airport. I think it's a better strategy to stay quiet about it, because then you actually can get a lead on those 5 other teams. But
I think Todd was panicking in that moment, because it takes about 3 minutes to make a guess. So he's looking in front of him, and he's seeing like 7 people in line in front of him, and he's like, that's going to be 20 minutes or so before I even get to make my guess. So he's like, I don't want to wait 20 minutes. So he made the call. It worked for him. He made the first flight. So
it did build some goodwill with the other teams, and so maybe they would help him out in the future. So it's not a totally bad move, but I don't know.
It didn't serve us very well.
Yeah. I know. Maybe it's just my own selfish needs that I'm like, oh, that's a bad move.
I mean, you guys were, I believe, the first team on the second flight, right?
Yep.
When you found out you were going to be on the second flight, how long of a walk was it from that first gate the first airline to the other airline?
It was the same terminal.
It was basically just, it was probably 100 feet. We just had to go around to the other side of that little area. It was pretty close by. The funny thing, though, when we left, the way that the show showed that scramble was it showed 4 teams at the same time saying City of Angels, and then 4 teams, City of Angels, Strasser being one of those second 4. That's not how it played out, obviously. It was 1 team at a time. By the time Strasser gets down to me and we read our clue, everybody's gone except for 1 team who is asking for directions. And so we're now in 13th place, and we were able to get great directions to LAX, and our navigation was on point, and we ended up passing up a bunch of teams to move into 7th at the airport. Unfortunately, they didn't put 7 teams on that first plane, but we made a big jump there from last place to 7th.
I mean, you guys were definitely the best navigating team of the whole season, without a doubt. I know you guys told me that you would, when we talked back in December after the season, that you guys would practice that you had a system. Does that go back to like your military days, or is that just a thing you guys figured out on your own?
The military days helped.
Yeah.
I was a driver in the Army. I would drive a Humvee. And when I was in Iraq for a year, we drove all over that country, and all we had was maps. Now, I had a navigator. I had my squad leader who sat shotgun, and he gave me directions, but often I would help navigate as well. Like sometimes I would be the one finding the way. And so it was, I don't know, navigating, driving, it's kind of innate. But I don't know. Smythe's been a UPS driver for a long time. He knows how to read maps. He knows how to get around. He knows how to navigate. It was super helpful. And we found out in Dublin that most teams don't know how to read paper maps. We do. But that really saved us in Dublin. The river dance would have taken us out if other teams knew how to read paper maps. That's what it really came down to.
I believe that, yeah.
Yeah, as a UPS driver, when I first started out, this was before we used GPS. And so everything was you just had a paper map book in your truck, and if you needed to find a street, you had to go to the back and look for the street and then find what page it's on. And so we know how to read maps from the military. My time at UPS is more recent, and so it's pretty fresh in my mind. And so, yeah, reading maps was no problem for us at all. It was nice, especially in Ireland. We had a nice big map book where, we could just jump in the car. Corey and Rob were on the hood of their car trying to get directions to that theater. And I just thought, let's just jump in the car. I'll try to figure it out while we drive. That way we can hopefully get a lead on them. Now, so that did work out for us. The only difference was we went back towards the freeway in that moment instead of heading straight north. Mm-hmm. Corey and Rob headed straight north, which was a shorter distance in the end. But it wasn't until we were almost to the freeway that I looked at the highway off to the side and how it could connect. So we might have taken the longer route there, but we still, navigation wasn't a problem for us, and we got there quick.
And it was a full day of navigating, not just one thing.
Yeah, that looked like one of the more driving heavy legs, honestly, if I'm not mistaken, the Dublin leg.
Yep.
Yeah.
So as we all know, it's important to check your stuff. And I know you guys are one of the few teams, like in the history of the show, I feel like they have lost their fanny packs twice. How, after the first time, how did you handle it? And then, of course, the second time that happens, did you just be like, okay, we're just going to make sure we have everything before we move at all?
Well, if I can make an important distinction.
Okay.
It was me that forgot the thing both times, but it was the fanny pack the first time, and the second time it was this notebook. We never forgot the fanny pack again, but I'd been taking notes in this notebook the whole time, very, very thorough notes, I might add, about all of the challenges, everything, all of the stops, everything that we did is in here.
Yeah.
And so in Slovenia, when we built the bee house, we left the bee house and the notebook was still there. And we got only about a mile and a half down the road. And I was like, oh, crap. We don't have the notebook. And we had a very quick conversation about, should we go back and get it? I don't know if this will show up, but there's still some Slovenian paint from our bee house.
Oh, wow.
This is the thing that was open when it was sitting there, and I spilled some blue paint on it. But we went back and we got it. And even though this notebook, even though we flubbed and that final memory challenge with the kayaks.
Yeah, with the bird's eye view and everything.
We had studied this a lot. And there were about 100 variables in those kayaks, and we got 99 of them right, like that, because we'd studied this so much.
It was important to have that in the end, because I feel like that lowers your stress levels, really, because you just have everything fresh in your mind. Going back to the fanny pack, though, the night before we lost our fanny packs.
He loves telling this story.
I do. Strasser. So the way we did the fanny pack, whoever who was doing the roadblock, where one teammate goes, the other teammate waits. Whoever was doing the roadblock would take off the fanny pack, give it to the other person. That person would keep it on them, snap it on them, and they would keep it until the next roadblock that they do. And then that was our plan, was whoever didn't do the roadblock wears it until they do a roadblock. The night before we lost it, Strasser said, I have a great idea. If we ever take the fanny pack off for any reason, we have to snap it onto our backpacks, because we're never going to leave our backpacks. So if we snap it on our backpack, we'll grab the backpack. It's going to be attached. We won't have any issues. The very next morning, Strasser has to use the restroom. And so he takes the fanny pack off and throws it on a bench and walks away. And that's where it sat until we came back in our cab to pick it up.
So he's doing the Lotus challenge, the bouquet.
Yeah. The nightmare challenge, I like to think of it.
And I go to the bathroom and my mic belt is like falling apart. I'm like, okay, I'm going to completely redo this. So I take everything off, the mic belt, the fanny pack, everything. And then I just dropped the fanny pack on a bench, and there it stayed. And I fixed my mic though. We got good audio. I can say that. But and then one funny detail, Ileana told us later that she saw us leave the fanny pack. And she said, you guys were already almost to your taxi when I saw it. And I thought about telling you. And then I was like, nah. So in the show, you see Ileana and I think, it's Andrea.
Yeah.
That are back at the waiting area for that roadblock when we come running up to get the fanny pack. And we're like, oh, we forgot our fanny pack. And Ileana's like, oh, really? But she knew the whole time that we had forgotten.
And then from that moment on, I wore the fanny pack, and I would not allow Strasser to wear the fanny pack again.
Which was my plan.
Was his strategy in the end.
I didn't want to wear that. I didn't want that responsibility.
You have to be smart at that. Yeah. So we have a question in the chat that I think is a really great one. So Amber M asks, would you race again if they had an all-star season?
Amber, the answer to your question is not
yes.
I was trying to think of a more clever way to say it. I couldn't. Absolutely, yes, 100%. We wouldn't hesitate.
We would love to go back and play the game again. I mean, for one, it was a blast, and two, we need a chance to fix that little mistake in the end that cost us the whole thing.
Yes, I would leave tomorrow. I would go on the race again, even if there was no prize.
Yeah. If
it was just like it's only for fun and there's no winning prize, I would still go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously the notebook is so important. Like when you finish a leg and you guys are in the hotel room in that 12-hour gap of time or whatever it is, did you guys sleep and then study it or quiz yourselves on it or what?
All the time.
Yeah, we did.
Because there's not a lot to do in the hotel. It's pretty boring. You can't leave. You can only watch so much Discovery Channel. Almost every hotel had Discovery Channel, no matter where we were.
That was one of the few English channels we could get.
So we watched a lot of Discovery Channel, but I mean, yeah, we quizzed ourselves all the time.
What we would normally, we tried to take as many notes throughout the day as we could when they were fresh. But then when we got back to the hotel, we would go through the whole day over again and make sure that we got everything in there and just talk it all over and say, okay, what did we do after this? And then what was this called? Try to get as many detailed notes as we can. And then we would spend time kind of just reviewing it and trying to keep it fresh in our minds after each leg.
And were you not reference it during the actual during the kayak?
We were not. It said no form of notes may be used.
Oh.
But if I turn to the first page of the first leg, it says right here, who wants to be above it all? Speaking of the Biltmore Hotel Roof Challenge. It was written in here correctly. And then later on, if I flip to the Slovenia Glider Challenge, it's going to say who wants a bird's eye view. We had it in here. Mm-hmm. But those two are just too similar named.
I mean, that's definitely the purpose of that type of challenge, though, to they want you to mess it up or, they want good TV. I mean,
right.
And you guys still almost won. You told me it was 2 minutes between you guys and Greg and John, which is,
It was very close.
Yeah, we were told the second closest finish.
Yeah, Amazing Race History. I think it's the second closest finish ever.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
we don't know for sure, but that's what they were indicating.
I want to talk about the hotel mattress challenge. That is my nightmare anxiety attack inducing thing in the world to me, just because being in a foreign country and it's 150 degrees in there and you have these giant heavy mattresses and you're trying to bring them to the right place. How long did it take you to find the hotel?
So in Vietnam, in fact, in the first three countries we were at, Vietnam, India, and Thailand, not a lot of English speakers. Yeah. Other countries, we could find English speakers pretty easy.
Yeah.
We got directions. Okay, you don't see this in the episode. In the episode, it looks like we put two mattresses on our head and just went the wrong direction.
And we just start wandering the town. Maybe we'll find it. No.
We asked directions. You don't see it. But somebody told us very confidently that the hotel is that way. So we went that way, about a half mile. And we're just there's no hotel here. Where are we? And then we found
somebody that actually spoke some pretty good English.
He was an old guy. Yeah. And spoke English well.
And so we asked him, and he pointed the way we just came from. And you could hear me in the episode say, "Oh no, please don't point that way."
Yep.
Because I don't want to go back to where we came from. We went that far out the the wrong way, and that was rough. And the fact that we were carrying two mattresses, we're thinking we got to get this done in 2 trips. Mm-hmm. 2 mattresses each time. And man, those things were heavy, and to go that far out of your way when it's that hot with those heavy mattresses.
And we still had our backpacks on at that point.
Oh, and we were still carrying our backpacks.
Because we eventually stowed our backpacks. We took a risk. Yeah. A lot of the challenges don't just make it easy for you with the backpacks. They tell you if you lose your backpack, it's gone. And we sneakily stowed our backpacks away.
We tried to hide them somewhere so they wouldn't get stolen.
Yeah, near the truck that had those mattresses in it. And luckily it worked out. So after we carried I don't know. I think we had the packs for a while. We finally were like, screw these packs.
Yeah.
And we hit them. But the amount of time it took us to carry those 2 mattresses a half mile in the wrong direction and back, we could have done the whole challenge.
Yeah.
But,
oh my God.
And we were at the front of the pack at the time too. Like,
yeah, we were in first place.
We had a chance to have a significant lead on everyone had we not gone the wrong direction. And the one thing Strasser thought about afterwards was we should have just found the hotel first and then went and got the mattresses, because the hotel wasn't that far from the truck. Had we just looked around, I'm even wondering, it was a pretty tall building. I'm even wondering if we'd have stood at the right angle, if we'd have been able to see the sign that said West Hotel from where we were standing.
Was it that far away? Like where you could probably see it?
About a quarter mile.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't too far.
It was taller than all the buildings around it.
Yeah.
And then it looked like it goes up like 3 or 4 flights, and like everyone, like I remember because I talked to Todd and Ashley last week, and they were talking about how hot it was and how much of a nightmare it just was. And
yeah, you can actually see in the episode, in the hallway, there's a lady standing there holding a mop. Her sole purpose was to mop up our sweat as we walked past her, because everybody was just dripping.
So much sweat.
They didn't want anybody to slip. And so you'd walk past, you'd come out and mop up your sweat, and then stand out of the way and wait for somebody else to walk by.
It was a very smooth, like marble type surface.
Yeah.
There was sweat everywhere from the teams.
So, do you guys have like nightmares about Jaipur?
Most of my nightmares are about the river dance.
Yes. We're gonna be talking about that. Like that's like the best. I'm a theater kid, so like watching a director be giving those kind of everything about it is just. Like, if you want to talk about the river dance right now, I will gladly.
Well, no, we can talk about Jaipur real quick. I mean, Jaipur, we had 2 days there, and the first day we saw all the touristy pretty things. We saw the fort. We saw the palace.
Yeah.
We saw.
I have to say, I love Jaipur because we saw some of the best facial hair on the entire race in Jaipur.
Yeah, lots of good mustaches. Very good mustaches.
I felt at home.
And then the second day in Jaipur, it was almost like you got the pretty stuff on the first day. Now you're down and dirty. And we were in the streets. There's cow manure everywhere because the cows just roam freely. There's trash everywhere. There's people that are destitute. There's just a lot. It was just much more physical the second day.
It was,
with that bike full of bricks and stuff.
Yeah.
And we did the bike challenge, which was very much harder than the flower challenge, turns out. But that was not a day that navigation worked well for us. I've gone back on Google Maps and I've looked up the route. It's almost exactly 1 mile from where you pick up the bricks and the sandbags and to where you drop them off.
Uh-huh.
And it's pretty direct as well.
Yeah.
Except you would go down the street, you would take a left and you'd go north and then you're there. We went like this.
Well, we were given the wrong directions again, and people kept, even though we were going the wrong way, apparently, people still kept saying, "Oh yeah, now go this way." And eventually, this I don't know how 8-9-year-old boy on a bicycle comes across us, and he spoke perfect English.
Yeah.
He's like, "What are you looking for?" And we told him, he's like, "Oh yeah, follow me."
And he goes on his bike. He's like, "I'll take you right there."
He leads us into this neighborhood, and we're winding through these streets, and pretty soon he just takes off on us.
He ditched us.
And we couldn't figure out how to get out of this neighborhood.
And we were nowhere near
and he didn't take us the right way.
And funny thing, I had 2 hats at the time, and I remembered an episode from way back, like season 9 maybe, where a local person had been super helpful to Boston Rob, and Boston Rob gave him one of his Red Sox hats.
Yeah.
And I was like, this kid is so awesome. He's saving us. And I'm like, I got to get my extra hat and give it to him. And then we get to where he ditched us and he takes off. And I'm like, I'm keeping this hat. And if I ever see that kid again, I'm shoving a stick in his spoke.
So one of my favorite moments, like one of my favorite episodes of the whole season is like in Germany with all the craziness. That carnival, was that the craziest, funnest moment of the race?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And the show didn't do it justice.
Well, I think they didn't have enough time to do it justice. Like,
it was so much bigger and more spectacular than it looked in the show.
Yeah, it was an amazing setup. You walk in that room and there's just people everywhere cheering you on. You feel like like you're Brad Pitt. You just walked in the room with girls or something. I don't know. I imagine that's what Brad Pitt feels like.
I think that's what happens.
That's what I've heard. I mean, I heard that he walks like people just throw parades.
We didn't know what was in there. All we knew is we had to put on this funny getup, and then mount this horse bike. And our instructions said, go through the doors, follow the path, blow kisses, and throw flowers.
Yep.
That's all we knew. And we walk in, and the band starts playing, and people are jumping,
and it was
screaming.
Before we go in those doors, it's dead silent. Like, we have no idea what's about to happen until you walk in, and it just erupts, and it's like the biggest party ever. Oh man, it was awesome.
It was so fun. In spite of we knew we were in the rear of the pack at the time, but in spite of that, we just had to enjoy it. It was so much fun, and it still stands out as one of the funnest moments of the entire race.
That's great. How quick into the Lovelock Bridge did you realize there's gonna be another like the Temple Challenge? Like, did you realize it was gonna be one of those?
If I'd have known that it was gonna be another challenge like that, I would have made Smythe do it. But because I struggled with finding my tile, and now I got to find a lock. Now, okay, we thought we were in last place. We didn't know that the Philly Johns were behind us, that they had that whole issue with the ferry and everything. So the earlier teams to get there, they had a few advantages. When they got there were multiple locks to choose from. And many of the teams told us that they saw what the lock looked like because the previous team showed them. So they would go to get their clue, and they see that, okay, it's a big black lock with a race flag on it. I had no idea what the lock looked like, and I assumed it would be marked with the race colors. And there's a million locks. There's more than a million locks on that bridge. They're all different sizes. I don't know what size I'm looking for. And I even found at one point, I found a ribbon that was a race flag. It was like a miniature race flag attached to a lock. And John found the same lock because it shows in the episode.
The Spanish flag, right? Yeah.
Yes, Greg found it too. I found that and I kept looking at it. But
you also have to realize that the Germany flag is very much race colors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of the locks on that bridge are painted in race colors.
Yep.
And so it catches your eye all over the place. I did have a little bit of hope that we were the second to last team, that the Philly Johns were still behind us, because when we left that carnival, I saw a costume hanging up that said Andrea on it. And so I thought, oh, maybe they're still behind us. And so I tried to use that to motivate Strasser partway into that lock bridge, because, I mean, we were just there forever. I was like, hey, I think the Philly Johns might still be behind us. Keep going hard. And then, another hour passes, and then another hour passes, and I'm looking down the bridge, and I'm thinking, the Philly Johns aren't running up. If they were still behind us, they'd be running up by now. We didn't know how far behind they were.
And he told me that he saw Andrea's costume hanging up, but I'd seen Todd's costume hanging up too. So I thought they just put him back or something. So in my mind, the Philly Johns had come and gone long ago, and I was just waiting for Phil to come eliminate us out of the field. And after a couple of hours on that bridge, my peripheral vision, when I'd see someone coming along, I thought it was Phil, and I'd look over and I'm like, nope, it's not Phil. But the other thing I tried, though, in the show, when somebody can't find something, the camera loves to zoom in on it and just show it and like show how close they are to it and stuff. And I thought, okay, I'm looking for this lock, and I'd go like this really fast and look at my camera guy and see if he zoomed in on the lock and see if he could give it away for me. And I tried that multiple times. It never worked.
Never
I'd just be like walking. Never caught him.
Yeah, it's so you were on that bridge for several hours. It doesn't even show, like, it looks like you were on there for a long time, and I didn't realize it was that long on that bridge.
Yeah, I swear it was like 2 or 3 hours.
I think Smythe got a night's sleep while he was just waiting for me to do that.
No, they kept asking me questions.
Want to say, Oi Brewer says that hard art star eye emojis, as you see right there.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Hello to you. We talked to him recently.
Yeah.
Nice. Sorry for cutting you off there.
No, that's fine. So when we got done with that lock bridge, when he finally found it, in my mind, the day was over, because I'm thinking, okay, that was a long day. We did a bunch of challenges. We've been out here forever. I'm expecting this next clue, tear it open, go find Phil on the mat. We tear it open, and it says detour. And I'm like, what?
Really? After this whole long day, we have another detour?
This isn't over yet? Are you sure? I'm like looking at the camera guy. Are you sure you just don't want to call this? I'm pretty sure we're done. We didn't know what was going on at that point.
How long did that detour last? Anyway,
wasn't too bad.
That one we didn't do too bad on. It was pretty quick. Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing was,
Yeah.
Okay, so once we opened the detour, we actually chose to do the soccer darts.
We talked about doing the soccer darts, yeah.
But then we didn't find it. We found the mustard challenge.
We walked past the mustard challenge on the way looking for the soccer darts. And he had been wanting to do an eating challenge forever anyways. And so we're like, oh, let's just do the mustard.
And we had very little stress at this point because the mat, we could see the mat from there. It was on the roof of a chocolate museum just across a little river or a little canal from where we were.
Yeah.
We knew where the pit stop was. And we knew there was nobody in front of us or behind us, and that we were last. And so we had very little stress with the mustard. We just enjoyed it. And Phil was actually there. Phil was having a beer while we were doing the challenge. He was just sitting there hanging out with some of the producers, and he's just watching us. And when we were wrapping it up, then he walked up the stars and went to the pit stop.
I think at that point, typically his day would have been over, but we were just dragging it on because of how long it was taking us.
He'd had a long day.
I think he's like, oh my gosh, guys, seriously.
He's like, where are the Johns? No one knows where they're just crossing the line back and forth all day long.
Yeah.
Another producer, by the way, they all knew that we thought we were last. Bertram talked to us for a few minutes. He asked us a bunch of questions. He asked us a bunch of retrospective questions, like,
they really dug into that.
What did this race mean to you? Was it worth it? So Bertram is really helping us believe we're done. And then finally, one of the producers is like, Bertram, let him go to the mat. So we slowly make our way over to the mat. And another producer had told Phil, make him cry. And so, and Jen told us afterwards that she had told him.
Yeah.
So we go up and we and Phil knows that we know we're done. And so we talked to him for 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, and he was doing the same thing, asking us all those retrospective questions. What are your kids gonna think? You know, how are they gonna react to you guys? You know, pushing through it, even though it was you fell behind, or all those questions. And I remember one of the first things I said to Phil is, Phil, I'm just glad that we were able to come here and get eliminated on the mat instead of out on the race course.
Yeah, and he said, I almost came and got you. But he talked to us for quite a while. Sure enough, he got us crying. And he just kept it going. I think he really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think it was really fun for him because he knew that in a few minutes he was going to get to see us get excited when we found out we were still on. And it was so far from what we were expecting.
And we were so confused when he told us that we were still in the race. Like, we couldn't, because he said, you still have a chance to see the country that we've never been to before. And I'm thinking, are you going to take us along? We're going to just be part of the crew now. We're going to help set up challenges. Like, how are we going to see this country? Like, totally still confused until he finally says, he told us there's a team still out there on the race course, and I think I am going to have to go out there and eliminate them on the race course. And that's when we were like, oh my gosh, we got here before the Philly Johns, and we found out, we were team, was that 7 or 9?
7.
That sounds right. 7, yeah.
7. And we were shocked. We couldn't believe it. Like, in my mind, I was already focused on my family, thinking about my kids, like being able to talk to them about this experience.
I had accepted it.
Yeah.
Like I was at peace with, I was very disappointed, but I'd accepted that our race was over. And I was thinking about all the cool stuff we'd done. I was like, we'd had such an awesome experience. We've seen so much. And then he hits us with, you can still see the country.
And we had to totally change our mindset back into game mode. We're like, we got it. And I'll tell you, we snapped into game mode harder than we had been the whole race. We went back to the hotel room that night and emptied out about a half of our backpacks to lighten them up as much as possible. We just left a bunch of stuff in the hotel room because we were trying to lighten them up so that we could have a little bit more of an advantage going into the next leg, knowing how far behind we are now.
Yep.
Wow. That is I'm so happy that we've sat down for this interview. So like we got, like, cause I know we talked about that a little bit about how you guys thought you were done in Germany, but like to hear that full story that's great. Oh my God. I can't believe that. So yeah, you guys got to Slovenia, which looks like the most beautiful place in the world.
Gorgeous.
What was it like riding that glider with all that horrible misreading timeline?
Do you want to tell them about the glider? Oh wait.
Yeah. He won't admit this, but he knew the number the first time. We were in first place.
Yeah.
And he was like, that was so beautiful. When am I ever going to get to do this again? So he purposely loves the response so that he can go a second time. Didn't you?
I wish that were the truth, because that would be a much better story than to guess 1199 back before there were even countries. I don't even know if the Earth was even around in 1199, to be honest with you.
I think it was.
But back then, there was probably just kingdoms. And so I don't know why I was thinking about how long people have probably lived in this part of the world, and I didn't even think about like when the country was established. And I would have had no clue that it was that early. 1991. That was, I was like almost in high school at that point, and so I would have never guessed that. But flying around in that glider plane, man, once that lead plane detached and you're just sitting there by yourself, it's just so peaceful, so quiet, a little stuffy. There was a little window you could kind of slide open to get some ventilation, but yeah, it was just an amazing experience. My first time around, looking through those binoculars, I had a hard time reading the numbers, so I wasn't totally sure that it was 2 1s and 2 9s. I thought there might have been a 6 and there might have been a 7, and so when I got down to guess, I just went with the 1199. My second time up, I think I even said on the show, there was an Expedia logo that had the arrow pointing a certain direction.
Yeah.
If you read the numbers from that direction, it said 1991. So that's when I guessed that. Now, I will say, Ashley, after she got it done, she was running past me, and we had helped them in a previous leg in India. And so I'm thinking, if I ask Ashley for some help, she's going to help me because we helped her. She asked me for help, and I helped her. She comes running past me, and I say, what'd you get? And she looks at me, she's like, she just keeps running. And then once she got
because I feel like there was a weird rivalry between you guys towards the end of the race, you and Todd and Ashley. Was that like when it really started?
I don't think
no. Well, so at that point, I think is when I think I heard Todd at one point say that was kind of the point where they had decided there's no more helping.
Yeah.
At this point, they're working for themselves, which makes sense. We were quite a ways into the race at this point. But I think Ashley felt bad about it. She wanted to help me, but she also was like, the good strategy is don't help another team, when you have an advantage over them. So as she got far enough away, she turned around and she yelled out something. But I couldn't catch what she was saying. And she said, "Did you hear me?" And I was like, "No." And then she left. So luckily I got it on my second try, but
no, we got along with them well the whole time.
Yeah.
So I don't think we didn't see them too much after that, except for maybe at the Maypole Challenge in Sweden. Apart from that, we were never very close to them after that.
That makes sense.
We did run into them at the mussels. They were just getting to the mussels while we were leaving.
Okay, and I want to talk about that.
We did kind of help them in that aspect too.
This is something that I've actually regretted because I missed the opportunity for another prank. When we were in Slovenia, so we did the mussels challenge. They did the fish trap cleaning challenge.
Yeah,
you had to go off a highway and then down toward the water. Well, Todd and Ashley had some navigation issues that day, and when we were leaving the area where those challenges were and we were getting back on the highway, they were just getting off the highway, and they came and stopped and they rolled down their window and they said, "Have you seen Chelsea and Robin?" Their big concern was, are we in last place or is Chelsea and Robin behind us? And we knew that Chelsea and Robin hadn't shown up yet, and we said, haven't seen them all day. And they were just like, Todd and Ashley were just like, whoo. But what I wish I would have done is said, "Oh yeah, they're already out of here. They're gone." Watched them squirm.
They just passed us up.
But I was too nice. I told them that I gave him, and I think that's why Todd was having so much fun when he was looking for the
2 chains.
Yeah, the 2 chains.
Oh my god!
He knew that Chelsea and Robin hadn't arrived yet because we told them.
That was one of my favorite parts too. That when Todd was doing the 2 chains, that was awesome.
When he was like having fun, that was great.
I thought Ashley was going to murder him that whole episode. And I think she was about to until like the skydiving calmed her down, which is still like the most insane stuff ever. Before we get to skydiving, because I definitely want to talk about skydiving with you, Garrett. Joel, in the pots and pan challenge, Did you have any idea that Corey walked past you at all until the episode?
No. When I saw that on the episode, I was like, oh my gosh, seriously?
He like covered his face, like he was trying to hide when we were just watching the episode. And I was like, did you know he was there? Because I didn't know that happened either. I said, did you know he was there? And he was like, no, I never saw him.
I gotta hand it to the production in that challenge. They got so many great shots of people passing people, a knob rolling down and falling into a gutter and rolling away. They got some beautiful shots during that challenge because they had stationed, at that point, a lot of the camera operators who had been following teams that were now eliminated were now just like stationed places, and they got some incredible shots during that challenge.
So they were just like sitting around like the square area and they're being like, oh, that makes sense. So that way it also is probably easier for people to not feel the pressure of a cameraman on them that much.
Yeah, I had to give props to Corey for that tiptoeing. That was really funny.
Well, not only that, but also his camera crew that typically would have been following him.
Yeah. That
they must have just backed off and went a different direction because they knew Strasser was there. They didn't want to spoil it. And so our camera guy, I think, is the one that actually caught Corey walking by.
Okay. So our camera guy was the one,
or girl, I guess, that day.
Oh yeah, it was a camera woman that day. But she caught that shot, and then later on she was asking us, so have you seen any other teams? Because she wanted that audio of me saying, no other teams.
I haven't seen anybody. Oh. And that was like moments after Corey just walked by.
So if anybody I've heard people wonder before, can the cameras help you at all? Absolutely not. If anything, they're relishing the opportunity to make you look stupid by not helping you.
So a couple more small things in Slovenia that we have to talk about. That Dragon Lair guy was probably my favorite task judge in the whole season. What was he like for y'all? Like you guys have the fun facial hair. He has the fun facial hair. Was he like brethren, or like he seemed so into character?
He was into character the whole time. He was like kind of looming, and he had his sword, and he was kind of walking around. And
I expected Sir Lancelot to walk in at any minute. Yeah, that's what I felt like. I felt like it was the Knights of the Round Table going on.
Yep.
It was, he was excellent.
That guy was so cool. And I remember also in that challenge, okay, so the roaring that happened, that was Bertram. So Bertram, I don't know why he thought of this, but while we were working on our dragon, he came up and he's like, hey, what sound does a dragon make? And I was like, roar! And he's like, no, more. Give me more. Because he's a director, right? And in his mind, he knew it was going to look funny on the show.
Yeah.
And he already knew how it looked, but I felt kind of silly. But
and of course he comes to us because we're the kind of the goofballs of the show. You know, we're the ones that are, dads that do stupid stuff to make their kids laugh, kind of thing. And so I think that's why he came to us and was asking us. But in the end, it actually helped us because those wings, we were trying to get them on, they wouldn't go on. Mm-hmm. We started roaring and they snapped right into place.
Yep. After we got our clue, we were leaving. There's like a zigzagging trail that led you up out of the cave. Yeah. And as we're going, Bertram's like, one more time, what noise does a dragon make? We're like, roar, as we're running out of there.
I have to bring up the most funny interaction I've ever seen on a mat in the show. When the Slovenian lady grabs your beard and rubs it all over her face. Does that happen to you?
No.
And that wasn't put on by anybody. She just did that.
That was her. That was all her.
Nobody said anything. She just all of a sudden started doing it.
She felt the need to brush her face with my beard. And
I mean, it's a beautiful beard. We talked about this before. Like, I'm jealous,
It was funny. It caught us all off guard. That lady was a hoot. Yeah. Both of them were. They were really nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk quickly about skydiving. I didn't want to talk too much about Stockholm because, like, obviously we have to talk about river dance. But the skydiving, it's like, I love it, like how Garrett and comes out like in love with it, and Garrett's like very much like, yeah, let's go, and then he's like terrified afterwards. Was like how did that feel for y'all? Like doing the most cliche Amazing Race jump out of plane thing there is.
Here's the thing: I was terrified the whole time. If you look at me in the plane, I'm just trying to stay super focused. If I said something while we were in the plane, it was probably an audio clip from somewhere else and put in, like either before the jump or after the jump. Because in the plane, I was just trying to stay out of my own head. Because the way Ashley was acting, that's the way I was feeling in my head. But the only way I could deal with it was just by shutting down and just like trying to stay super focused and not think about what was about to happen. Now, that being said, I'm totally excited that they forced me to do this because I would never choose to do that on my own. So the fact that I was forced to do it, I got to experience that thing that I would have never chosen to do. But I was like freaking out the whole time. And I was the second one to go out. I watched Strasser go out. And man, I don't know if you know how fast a body falls out of a plane.
No, I don't.
And so I see him go out and I'm like, oh my gosh, now I'm next. And so I hang my legs out like they tell me to. I put my head back like I was told. And I'm sitting there. And all I'm thinking is, luckily I don't have to do anything. He's just going to push me out because I'm attached to him. But as soon as we go out, I start trying to grab onto something. There's nothing there because we're falling. Yeah. But my immediate reaction was that. And then the brain accepts the fact that you're falling and there's no danger because the ground, you're nowhere near the ground.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of peaceful. All of a sudden you can just kind of just enjoy the free fall. Once the parachute opens, then it's a slow fall and it's nice and calm. And at that point I was like, okay, this isn't too bad. But man, I even said on the episode, it was awesome, but I'll never do it again.
Whereas I want to do it again.
He's trying to talk me into doing it again locally, and we'll see.
Now that I know how much fun, and one thing that I want to point out about the challenge, where when we got to the airport in Sweden, in Stockholm, the first thing we did was take a taxi to the airfield.
Yeah.
And our taxi driver was very lackadaisical. And we left the airport first, but then we start getting passed by other teams. And we're like, dude, and he spoke good English. We're like, dude, this is a race. We can't be getting passed. We're getting passed. And he's like, don't worry, I will take them. Well, he never did take them. He never sped up at all.
We thought he had some shortcut in mind or something was going to happen. And he just drove the same way the entire way there. And
so when we get to the airfield, John and Greg have already been dropped off. They've already ran right past the board with the numbers on it, and they're all searching. Steve and Anna Lee got there before us too, but they got dropped off somewhere else.
They drove around for a while before they got out of the car.
Mm-hmm. And so we see John and Greg, and they're out looking through some like hangars and stuff, and we just start running.
I'm ready to follow them. I'm thinking they got to know where we're supposed to be, and so we start running out there. And luckily, Strasser saw the board that had the numbers on it, and
the board was very muted. There was no race color on it. It was like the numbers matched the natural board, really well. And as we're about to run past it, I see him. I'm like, Urge! I'm like, wait, numbers. So we grabbed a number, and then I think did Steve and Anna Lee get the next one?
Yep.
Yeah. And then John and Greg came back, and they're looking for him. And I'm like, dude, I'm not helping you at this point.
You have like the funniest comment. You're like, yeah, I know I can help you guys. So I'm really enjoying this. Like,
we're the type of people that like to help people, and so to watch them struggle, it's like, we want to help you.
If it wasn't for the fact that you guys win every night, I'd probably help you.
They had quite a few wins at that point.
Let's skip ahead to like one of the best parts of the whole season, the whole river dance of it all in Dublin. Like everything about this, like you're dancing at one of the most world famous theaters in the world. You're doing a hard type of dance. Garrett's there watching all these people fail while having like this insane like the line judge being a very professional director.
Yep.
With Anna Lee probably freaking out next to you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like what was like? I want to hear the full experience from both you guys' perspective.
Well, so we should start out with when we first tore open the clue, because we tore open the clue, saw that it was a roadblock. At this point, we had just been going back and forth for roadblocks.
Right.
Yeah.
We decided if there's something that we feel like would benefit one of our talents, then we'll choose. Otherwise, we're just going to swap back and forth. For this one, it was Strasser's turn. He tears it open, and it says, "Who wants to get their steps in?"
Who wants to get their steps in?
And as soon as he reads that, my thought is, that's probably going to be a dance. I know Strasser doesn't want to dance. I'm afraid at this point he's going to push it onto me. He's going to say, dude, this is going to be a dance. You got to do it. I'm fearful of that. Strasser, instead.
Oh, my gosh. All right. So we're in front of the Gaiety Theater, and there are Riverdance posters everywhere. If I was more observant and I read, who wants to get their steps in, I would have known exactly what that meant, but I didn't know what that meant. I immediately had this image that there was a large pile of sandbags in the basement of this theater that needed to be on the roof. And that I was going to have to, and that whoever did this roadblock is going to be carrying sandbags up a bunch of stairs, putting them on the roof and go back and forth until you get all 40 sandbags up there or whatever. And I don't know why. I guess I just wanted it to be that, because when I read that, I got so excited. I'm like, this is a challenge made for me. I could do this. I have endurance. I could carry heavy things, and I'm going to bust this out, and we're going to get out of here in first place. I was so excited. So I'm like, I want to get my steps in. And then I read the additional information, and it says, join the famous river dance.
I was so happy. I was so happy.
And he was happy, and my heart just fell out on the sidewalk. I was like, what? I'm going to be doing a river dance? They couldn't design a harder challenge for me. There's no way. This was, without question, the hardest part of the whole race for me, but also one of the hardest things I've done in decades. Like, I have a hard time thinking of anything this hard that I've done in a very long time.
So before you get too much into the dance, in the clue, it did say Steve must complete this roadblock.
Right, because Annalie exactly. Out, yeah.
So at that point, we knew that Steve was going to be doing it, which was a huge relief for us, because we knew if Annalie was doing it, boom, she's done. She's going to knock that out super quick. Mm-hmm. So we were happy that Annalie had to do it, or that Steve had to do it. And so when I was sitting next to Annalie in the theater, she was stressed out, and she was like saying, "Oh man, this is going to be tough." At one point, we're talking, and she even says, "It looks like it's down to just me and you," because at that point everyone was already gone, and it was just Strasser and Steve still up there. And so yeah, she was just as stressed out as we were. But you can go ahead and get into this dance.
It was just so hard, and my body doesn't move that way. This isn't my wheelhouse by any stretch, and I just had to keep telling myself, you can do it. You can learn this. You will learn this, and you will get it right. Well, when I did my first attempt, it was so miserable, and I knew I was nowhere close. And they would not allow you to practice beside the stage. You had to go back upstairs to the practice area. And so I was like, I'm so far away, I'm just going to go practice some more. So you had to change your shoes back to your street shoes. I go up, and I'm practicing a little bit more. And then after about 10 minutes of practicing, I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing it over and over again until I'm done. So I go down, and then Steve and I are switching off for a while. Neither of us are doing really well. I got to give a shout out to Steve's SpongeBob boxers, because that's when I saw that happen. His pants came down, and he was wearing SpongeBob boxers, which I thought was hilarious. But then finally Steve finishes it, and I go out, and now I'm just going over and over and over again. Now in the episode, you see me say, I'm going to take 3 minutes, and then I'm going to come back out here, and I'm going to nail it. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to take a break. That was actually my way of controlling the break, because right before I said that, they told me that the dancers needed a break. And so I wasn't going to take a break. I was sweating through everything, but I was going to go until I got this. But the dancers had been going nonstop since John and Corey's
with multiple teams. The dancers are going. And so at that point, they're like, we got to let them have a little bit of a break, get some water and everything.
And I was thinking, well, I don't want them to take a long break. So that's when I said, I'm going to take 3 minutes, and then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to nail this. The show made it look like I completed it in, I think, 8 attempts. It took me 15 attempts to complete it. I just had to keep going and going and going. And I did get a little bit better each time. And I just kept telling myself, if I try hard enough, if I pick up a little thing from each failure, I'll eventually put it together. And my 15th attempt wasn't as good as John's first attempt or Corey's first attempt. And I think both of them got it in 2 attempts. But it was good enough that it passed all of the requirements.
Yeah, the good thing about the judging is they look for specific things.
They said there were 5 things you had to nail.
And so you don't have to do the dance perfect. You don't have to nail every single step of the dance. As long as you hit those 5 things that they teach you, then you end up passing. And so
the other thing that helped me a lot is I kept a giant smile on my face the entire time. I wasn't feeling happy, and so the smile was kind of, it wasn't what was happening inside of me. But one of the 5 things was you have to be happy, and that was the only one that I knew for sure I could control, is my face. And the judge actually told me, he said, your demeanor was the best demeanor of anybody that did this. And he really appreciated that too.
Yeah, it was really cool seeing a line judge like be like that technical when it comes to like a theater type thing. And like you gotta dance on like one of the most famous stages in the world, which is pretty cool.
That was one thing that I said in one of my interviews that didn't make the show is what an opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, he gets to say for the rest of his life, he danced in the Gaiety Theater with the Riverdance production, like the actual people that started it all, and he got to dance with. I mean, that's pretty cool.
And then like shortly after, you like did the hurling challenge, and you see that Steven and Elite are behind you. Like that must give you like new air of like realizing that you guys actually have a real chance.
We didn't know they were behind us.
Yeah, we couldn't believe it.
When we found out, it wasn't exactly as it appeared on the show. There was a bonus challenge in there that actually got cut out.
Oh,
we had to climb to the top of that stadium, and then there's a catwalk that goes around, or like that ring around the top. We had to run around that ring at the top of the stadium and then rappel down into the stadium. And they cut it out probably because the Riverdance took so much time. They wanted to spend more time on the Riverdance. So all 4 teams, we did the whole go up to the top and rappel down. You just don't.
God.
And it was during the rappel when we were lowering down that we hear some commotion across the top of the stadium, and that's Steve and Annalise showing up. And we're like, my gosh.
Like, Steve and Annalise just got here.
We about lost it. We're like, they're behind us. They're behind us. We had no idea. So they kind of had to, since they cut that challenge out, they couldn't show us actually with the real moment we discovered that they were behind us, and they just kind of took some audio and put it in when we were exiting the stadium. And I understand why they had to do that. But that gave us so much new life to find out that we weren't in last place. And then we get to Toner's Pub. We give them memorized poems, which were
and lucky for us, like there was pressure there because now we know Steve and Annalise are behind us. But luckily they didn't show up while we were trying to memorize our poem.
Yep.
Because that's when the pressure is really on. If you're trying to compete with another team on the spot, man, it's hard to memorize stuff. And so I'm glad we were able to get it done and give our poems and get them correct before they got there, because that added pressure would have just been too much, I think.
And I still know every single word of my poem. I'll never forget it, but I don't know a single step of the Riverdance. It's all gone.
I mean, like, it's that weird thing of like, those are 2 very iconic, stereotypical, like Amazing Race challenges. Like, go in a bar and recite this poetry, or go into the theater and do a dance. I love it. Like, and you guys got to do both of that. And then when you guys saw you were in Seattle for the last, like, did that like break you guys? Because I remember you guys told me that you would like, in your drives, you would try to figure things out. Like Seattle felt like a possibility, right? You drove to Seattle at one point, I think you told me, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I lived near Olympia, Washington for about 5 years.
Okay.
Not that long ago, like 2015 through 2020, I lived in Olympia. I didn't go to Seattle very often though. And the first thing I thought of when we read the clue was, why didn't I go to Seattle more? I would go to Mariners games, and occasionally, like I'd go to like Pike's Place Market or whatever, but that was it. And so I was kicking myself for not spending more time in the city, but I was still excited though. It's like I kind of know Seattle, and depending on where we are, I'll know the area.
Well, and we did a lot of research leading up to it. We asked a guy, to borrow his computer or his phone or something, and we just thought, what are some iconic places? The Space Needle, the baseball stadium, the football. We made a list of some iconic places. Pike's Place.
We got all these maps in here that we drew out of how to get between places in Seattle. How to get from the airport to the Space Needle is right in here. We wrote that down. We wrote how to get to the Space Needle to Pike Place. How to get from T-Mobile Park to the Space Needle. Like everything we could think of, we got maps that we hand drew in the Dublin airport. So not only that, but we found a travel store, or we found a store in the airport that sold a book.
So that was in one of our layovers. And what had happened, we were getting ready to leave Ireland, got to the airport, and found out that our flight was canceled. And so then the show had to scramble to try to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? Which we think that's why when you watch the show, most of the leg is run in the dark at night. Because the first flight should have gotten in earlier. Most of it would have been throughout the day, maybe into the night, but most of the leg was in the night because of our delay, or we had to find a new flight. And so in our layover, we found a bookstore that sold books, map books of Seattle. And so we have that with us. And that was a huge help for those first few challenges because they were all
in the center of Seattle.
Yeah, in that part of the map. And so, again, being able to navigate with a map was a huge bonus for us.
Yep.
So when you found out it was a scramble, did that bring you guys joy as like big fans of the show? Because I think they only done a scramble, I think once or twice before.
They only done it once before.
Yeah, it was
Berlin.
Yeah.
Was it Berlin? It was Germany, and it was the very first leg of season
34. Yeah.
And so we weren't expecting a scramble, but when we heard it, we're like, oh, of course.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we were excited about it too. I love scrambles myself. And so it was an exciting thing. Now, obviously our thought was, let's find the closest one. We're going to go there first, and then we'll just work our way down, whatever's closest next. And then after that, and because you don't know where the pit stop's going to be in the end, right, or the final challenge before the pit stop. And so our thought is, let's just get to the challenges as quick as we can and knock them out as quick as we can. And man, we knocked them out quick.
We did good in the scramble. We finished the scramble between the three parts of it with about a 20-minute lead over Greg and John getting to that final kayak challenge. So it worked out great. The glass blowing went good. We got there after Greg and John left before them. The setting up the band worked really great. And I got to say real quick, you mentioned the judges. The judge at the Showbox Theater or Showbox Club or whatever it's called where we set up the band, he was very funny. He acted all exasperated when we got it wrong. He actually sent me a message on Instagram like a month ago after the show aired.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, I'm the guy that was the judge at the Showbox. And he was like, my wife was worried that I would come across too mean because I was playing this mean character. And he's like, but you guys were awesome. That was so much fun. He's a cool guy.
He was a lot of fun because, I mean, we made a few mistakes before we finally got it right. And in one of our checks that we called out, what did he say? Like,
he said, why don't you get it right before you call me over this time?
Why don't you get it right before you make me get out of my seat?
And then he told us, maybe you should give that roadie jacket back to Weezer.
Yeah. That was so funny, that comment right there.
Yeah.
But,
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh no, like it was just like I feel like in the scramble, like you guys were doing so great, even like with the circus stuff, which was probably the hardest one in theory. But like watching you guys be so happy listening to Smoky Brights was like the greatest thing ever.
Yes.
Well, we had no clue that they were going to really bring a band out. Like, like we were shocked. Like we got done setting up thinking, okay, this guy's going to give us our clue. We're going to run out. We didn't know that a band was going to come in and perform and then give us the clue. And so it was really cool being able to be there and have a live performance while we're getting our clue.
I'll say I'm a Smoky Brights fan now. I followed them on Spotify and listened to a bunch of their stuff. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But so we get to the trapeze. By the time we got to the trapeze, we've done so many things in this race that are outside of our comfort zone that it's like second nature now. It's like, oh, we have to swing upside down by our knees and flip over to this guy. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So it didn't occur to us to even get worried about it. We were it's just another thing that we don't know how to do that we're going to do.
Yeah, it's kind of like trying to figure out a game, And so you get up there and you say, okay, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. And so you just, with each attempt, you learn what didn't work and you try something new. And I mean, eventually we actually got it pretty quick too. I was impressed with us, to be honest.
We were fairly in and out of that.
What was the leg of the scramble that took the longest for you guys?
Was it the glass? Maybe, I don't know.
It was either the glass or the band setup because there was a couple of chords that we couldn't find, and it took us a little bit. Watching it back and seeing Corey and Rob and Greg and John struggle with the same exact things, maybe even more than we did.
Yeah,
was kind of a relief to us because we didn't even know how much they struggled on that stuff. So
yeah.
How long after Greg and John left with the kayaks did you guys realize that you had those two kayaks in the wrong place?
5 minutes.
Yeah, basically they drove away once they were out of sight. It wasn't just minutes after that we were like,
So you definitely made up time then afterwards. Then, if it was like 5 minutes and you were like 2 minutes behind them,
we made up time because we got good directions. We left there, and now it's like 2 a.m. Right? There's not a lot of people around, but you can always count on the drive-through at Jack in the Box. And there was a Jack in the Box right by that airport, and there's a car with like some college dudes in it. And we pull up to that. I'm like, right there. They're gonna help us. We go up.
Yeah.
And they immediately knew what was happening. They saw
the camera
and saw the cameras, and they're like, "Oh, amazing race!" And I'm like, "Dude, freak out later. Give me your phone." And the guy gives me his phone, and I'm like, "Marymore Park, Kleist Mansion, directions. Boom. Here's your phone. Thank you. We're out." And it went super smooth. That was very good directions. Those guys, I don't know who they were, but they were the right people at the right time for us.
Now, just because we have good directions, though, doesn't mean Strasser trusts it the whole way there, because there's times when I'm navigating him and I'm saying, okay, you're going to go straight and then we're going to turn right in a ways. And he's like, did we go too far? I think we went too far. Do we need to turn around? And then he starts making me doubt it. Like, I don't know. Maybe we do need to turn around. But so we had one of those situations on the way to Marymore Park where we were driving for a long time down this highway. And we're like, I'm thinking, I think we need to keep going until we see a certain street. But then we start to doubt it. Like, did we go too far? And then all of a sudden, boom, there's the street. We make the turn and find, and so our navigation, even though we stressed a little bit,
it was perfect.
We found it.
We made no wrong turns. We went exactly from the kayaks to Marymore Park. And yeah, since we left there about 5 minutes after Greg and John, and from the best we can tell, it was between 1 and 2 minutes from the time they got to the finish line and us got to the finish line. So we made up some time, and it was close. It was very close.
Yeah.
But when we came running through the bushes, you see there's like some bushes and a path, and you come through to see the finish line. We get into the park and we don't know we're in second place. We know that they left before us, and we think there's a possibility we might have caught up with them. We didn't know until we came through the bushes and saw them on the mat that we were for sure second place, but we were happy.
Yeah.
Like, I was actually very happy in that moment, even though I see that we didn't win. I had a very strong feeling that the right outcome happened. It just kind of hit me. And I'm thankful for that feeling because that helped me a lot. I see Greg and John there, and I'm not disappointed. I'm excited for them. They were dominant. They earned the win. And I was super happy for them. I was run up, give them a hug, congratulate them. Yeah. And also at the same time, I was just relieved that it was over at that point too.
Yeah, it was a big stress relief once we knew we were on the mat. The whole thing was over with. And to have that big of a lead throughout the whole leg and then lose it at the last second and then run up just a couple minutes after the first place team, you want to find a way to hate that team in front of you, It
would be nice.
But there's nothing to hate about those guys. Greg and John are just such awesome guys. Like they just have the whole package on, and then on top of that, they're just super nice.
Yep.
Like they're the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And Corey and Rob also, to race the final leg with those two teams, man, it was awesome.
It was a privilege to be in the final three with those teams. Everything that you see is real about them. Corey and Rob really are the coolest, nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Greg and John really are very kind, very smart, very athletic. They've got the whole package. And I got to meet we got to meet both of those teams' families at the finale party in New York.
Yeah.
I met Greg and John's parents and siblings and uncles, and they're just the coolest
super nice people also. It was awesome.
Rob's wife, Corey's mom, Corey's brother. It was so cool to meet their families. Just such good people, It was great.
That's great. I want to ask a couple questions that Sabrina told me to ask that are small or that are good questions to ask.
Yeah.
Which place would you guys absolutely want to visit again?
There's so many cool things that we saw that I would like to have the opportunity to take in, because we didn't take in anything. Yeah. But I think I would have to say Ljubljana and the surrounding area in Slovenia. I think to be able to go there again, it was just so doggone pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's got to be at the top of my list of if I could go to one of those places again, where I would go.
Yeah, I'm the same. I loved everything about Slovenia. I mean, just the landscape, everything is just gorgeous, and the people were super friendly. You know, we had to ask directions many times there too, and people were helpful and friendly. And there was a tourist group there. Sorry to that tourist group for interrupting your tour.
Oh, that's right. there was a tour, like you know when you're on a guided tour and someone's speaking to you.
Yeah.
We were in the square in the middle of Ljubljana, and I ran up right through the middle of their tour group, and I jumped up on top of a. It was when I was looking for the
mat. We're on our way to the mat.
Yeah, and I jumped up on top of a kind of, it was an elevated platform next to a monument because I'm trying to get a good view. And then I realized I'm interrupting this tour. And I'm like, oh, sorry, guys, just ignore me.
And of course, we got our camera guy with us, our sound guy, and they're all like, what the heck is going on here?
But yeah, Ljubljana was very cool. And Slovenia was the surrounding area.
But I mean, there's so many places. I mean, I would love to go back to Germany and visit the different castles. You know, spend more time.
I would like to go back to Cologne and blow up that lock bridge. That's a joke. I'm not doing it. But no.
I mean, Sweden was gorgeous. I would love to go back to Thailand and get time to spend at that big golden Buddha statue, because that thing was huge, and we just got a quick second with it and then took off.
I'd like to go back to Thailand and not get another massage.
That massage, like those massages were the funniest things to watch between. I think it was like you guys, Victor and Jocelyn. They just showed so much. You guys just screaming in pain.
It was rough.
It wasn't a massage. It was forced contortion.
Which roadblock would you guys wish you did instead of your partner did?
I wish Smythe did the river dance instead of me. I don't know if that's what you're asking. But no, which roadblock that Smythe did that I wish I could do would be the glider.
Yeah.
Slovenia, no question.
You know, you didn't have any good roadblocks.
I did all the crappy stuff.
I'm trying to think, like,
did I do anything you would have?
I mean, I guess walking across the high wire at the very first challenge,
the tightrope.
Again, I'm not the biggest fan of heights, but the experience and to be able to talk about that experience would be cool.
You probably would have got the word challenge faster.
I don't know about
that. What was your favorite line judge and least favorite task judge?
Okay, so that lady that did the fish sorting, we didn't meet her.
Yeah, we didn't get to meet her.
But she was very cool because she was so funny and so nice. But I think that guy in at the showbox was probably my favorite, just because not only was he very much in character, but the fact that he reached out to me afterwards. Oh, and he also said he's sending me a poster from when Weezer performed at the showbox. So he's going to send that to me, and I'm just like, dude, you're so cool. Thank you.
There were a lot of them that I liked a lot, but I really liked the guy at the River Dance. I mean, and he's actually the actual producer of the.
He's the director.
Yeah. But I mean, he was very kind and supportive, and he wanted the teams to do well in that dance.
Yep.
At one point, he heard me yell out, "Let's go, Strasser!" And he turns around, he's like, "What's his name?" I'm like, "Oh, his last name's Strasser. That's what I call him." Then he started calling him Strasser. He's like, "All right, Strasser, you got this." And I mean, he was just very cool and a very nice guy. I'm very supportive of all the teams. He was awesome.
With the show, you always interact with a lot of local people. What was your favorite interaction with any local people in the places you visit?
Gosh, we talked to so many people. So I speak French and Smythe speaks Spanish, and we hoped that one of us at least would get to use that, and we never really did. But oddly, we ran into a tourist from Spain while we were in Thailand, and Smythe got to
I got to use Spanish one time in Thailand.
Yeah.
They didn't make the show, but
we got directions as soon as we headed to the travel agency.
Our very first taxi driver spoke perfect English, and he knew exactly.
Yep. His name was Jack.
He knew exactly where we needed to go, and he got us straight there with no issues. He was great.
Dude,
I think my favorite one, though, was in Slovenia when we left the parking garage. We just wanted to start heading out of town. We didn't know which way to go. We started heading out, made a right turn. There was a lady walking a dog, or was she just walking?
Yeah, she was walking her dog.
And so we just pulled over. The street was empty there, so we just pulled over, asked her if she could help us. She spoke perfect English, pulled out her phone and like knew where we were trying to get to, and she showed us exactly how to get there. And the directions she gave us were perfect, and she was super nice,
which is why we got
super helpful.
The glider challenge in first place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Although, you know what? Now that you said that, I think I know the right answer is the girl in Stockholm by the boat.
They gave us the directions.
Yeah, the Delta 2 boat, because she's the reason we won that leg.
That's true.
Because she gave us perfect directions to the subway station we needed to get to. She told us about the shortcut through the trees up the path.
Yep.
And everyone else the 3 other teams bunched together and went the complete wrong direction. And she was the right person at the right place. She was super kind and said, yes, this is exactly what you need to do. And she wrote it out for us quickly and perfectly.
And that's what got us our first place. So yeah, I agree. She has to be our number 1.
Yep.
I'm really mad. Like, we didn't talk about that likely at all today, really, because like, watching that last 10 minutes episode where the 3 teams are all together and you guys think you're done and you win is like the most awesome part of the show. One of the best parts.
And all the producers knew that we had no idea that we had won.
At this point, too, we're thinking we had seen Corey and Rob and Steve and Annalie at the recycling.
Yep.
They left as we were working on the recycling. Greg and John we hadn't seen. We just assumed, they're way ahead of everybody. And so we're thinking we're not going to ever see them. Corey and Rob, Steve and Annalie leave. We're thinking they're going to be far enough ahead. We're not going to catch up to them. And so when we actually got to the mat and we're running up there, nobody's on the mat. And we're just thinking, they got here 20, 30 minutes ago. They're here and gone. We're 4th place, which means we're safe. We're on to the next leg.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember thinking, this is sad for Todd and Ashley.
Yeah.
When we ran up to the mat, we were like, we're the team that's taken out Todd and Ashley. And I felt bad for them. And then we get up to the mat. I almost bumped into a lady as I was approaching the mat, and she started yelling at me. It's the only time the whole race that I think I pissed off a local person. Actually, she was a tourist. She wasn't from Stockholm, but I got in her way for a minute, and she started yelling at me. But I didn't care. I was like, there's the mat.
Yeah, we got to get to the mat.
We get to the mat, and I'm ready for Phil to tell us we're in 4th place, and he knows that we think we're in 4th place. So he had fun with us. He teased it out for like 5 minutes. And then he finally tells us that we're in 1st place. And we were just like, no way. Like, oh my gosh, that was such a cool moment to find out we won that leg.
And afterwards, all the production that stands around off camera, as for the production, they were telling us every one of them were wondering what was going to happen because they all have tracking. I don't know if it's on their camera guys or whatever, but they're seeing us run all over town and they're seeing where we're at. And so they're thinking, oh my gosh, are Garrett and Joel about to get 1st place? So when we came running up, everyone, kept the straight face, but they were all super excited because they knew we had no clue that we had passed up those 3 other teams.
Oh, that's great. Is there any other shows you guys want to do that you would possibly want to do?
I mean, I've applied for Survivor a couple times. I never heard back. And this was before Amazing Race.
Okay.
And I assumed we would never hear back from The Amazing Race either. I love Survivor. It's one of my favorite shows. Survivor and Amazing Race, when they are in season, it's my favorite time to watch TV. It's like my wife and I look forward to this time of year so that we can watch these 2 shows. And so, yeah, I would, if ever the stars aligned for an opportunity to do Survivor, I would be all over it.
I've always loved the Challenge USA. I used to watch it back when it was Road Rules versus Real World Challenge. Yeah. And so I've been a fan of that show forever. Johnny Bananas, I love that guy. A lot of those classic guys, and I know that's a totally different show. That's one where you have to be kind of hardcore, which I can do that. I can change from the nice guy to the hardcore guy if I need to. So I think that'd be fun to do. Of course, I need to get in better shape if I were going to do that one because I'm not in the best shape right now. But I think that's a cool show. I kind of want to do a show where you can use more strategy because in the race we didn't use a lot of strategy, manipulation, tricking people. I kind of at home we play games with my wife and kids, and the strategy games are my fun games, which my wife hates because she always complains that I'm too good at the strategy of it, and I always trick her into doing stuff that
he did one very good strategy move in the race that didn't make it into the show, and it did make a big difference, by the way, too. And it was in Sweden. After the skydive, we landed first from the skydive, and there was not a very big gap between teams landing. Annalie and Steve are down just a few minutes after us, and Greg and John are down just a few minutes after them. So we tear open the clue, and it's telling us what boat dock we have to go to jump on the boat to take us to the island where the maypole is. Well, we have no idea where we are or where this boat dock is. And it took us several minutes to get directions. It's like 5 a.m. when we did the skydive. There's no one around, so we couldn't find a lot of people to help us. We eventually figured out how to get to this boat dock, but by the time we figured it out, here come Annalie and Steve, here come Greg and John. It was actually super easy for them to find the boat dock because we did that work. And so we're running along the canal toward the boat dock, and here come Greg and John. They can run a lot faster than we can and farther than we can. And Smythe comes up with this great idea. As there's a pedestrian bridge that's going over the canal, and he says, "That's the bridge we got to go over?" And I'm looking at the paper, and I immediately knew what he was doing, so we didn't have to plan it. I look at the paper, I'm like, yeah, that's our pedestrian bridge. And so we keep running. Greg and John hear us, and they go right over the pedestrian bridge.
And then we slowed down because we wanted them to get all the way across before we actually went the other way.
And then we're like, and we went toward the dock. And you see Greg and John in the episode.
Yeah, in the episode, you see them crossing that bridge, but they were going the wrong direction at the time.
Yeah, you don't know why they're crossing the bridge. It's because we sent them in the wrong direction. And if not for that trick that Smythe thought of, they would have been on the first boat and would have got to the maypole first. But because of that, we got in the first boat. Annalie and Steve, I think, got the second boat, and Greg and John got the third boat to the maypole.
Oh, that's great. Is there anything you guys want to talk about in the race that we didn't bring up today, or?
And we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
It is so cool. I don't know if the people who make the race happen get enough shout outs or credit. The team that makes the show, the producers, from the top to the bottom, were so very cool and professional. And obviously they've done this many times. They have it into a finely tuned machine. And when things come up, when a wrench gets into the gears, they deal with it. But I have nothing but good to say about everybody that makes this show happen. It is such a great organization, this whole World Race Productions team. It's just awesome.
And probably the only other thing that I would want to bring up is you saw in Ireland that last, I guess, towards the end of that leg, I talked about my daughter with special needs and how if we were to win, we'd want to get her a service dog. And, everyone online was reaching out saying, if they don't win, we got to find a way to get his daughter a service dog. And now, probably by now, everyone knows that since we didn't win, Strasser set up a donation thing. And, man, people came together so fast and donated to that and made it possible. And so I'm just grateful for everyone out there that, was a big part of that help for my daughter. And we're in the process right now of working on getting that service dog and everything. And man, what a blessing it is to have all those people out there reaching out, wanting to help. And Strasser, setting that whole thing up. And I didn't know he was going to set that up. And in the end, he says that it was a big help for him too, because he knows, how important that was for us to try to get that for my daughter. And so, I'm grateful for him for doing that and for everyone out there that's been a part of that journey with us.
If I can just say it really quickly, because I could go on this for 15 minutes, but I'll try to keep this brief. It was hard for me to deal with losing the race by about a minute and a half, and seeing the mistake that I made at the kayak challenge very prominently displayed. For me to live with the fact that we lost and know what exactly I could have done differently or not done in order for us to win, tough thing for me to live with. Everybody coming together and donating to Smythe's daughter's service dog fundraiser made that better for me. Made that a lot better for me. It took the hardship. I mean, I spent a lot of time between when the show recorded and when it started airing. I spent a lot of time in my head thinking about the fact that we got second place because I made a mistake in the end. And the fans of the show, the people that donated, shared the fundraiser, put it out there. It's a big blessing to Smythe's daughter and his family, but it's also a huge blessing to me also.
That's great. Like, I remember when you told me about it when we had our first talk about it, and I saw that it was rated at like I think like $10,000 on that first day, and I just like followed it happening, and it was like right before Christmas when it hit the 60, and I was like, that's great. Like, it's really great to see that like you guys were able to have this amazing experience, and also you get this for your daughter. It's just, it really warms my heart that this like such beautiful good came out of this. You know?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And it is a good that wouldn't have come if we'd won the race. Like, yes, we would have got $1 million. Yes, Brindley would have got her dog, but all of this awesome feelings and kindness and everything that people poured into us wouldn't have happened if we would have won. And it's just a really cool silver lining.
It's great. How can people follow you if they want to follow you? I know you guys are great on social media, so how can people follow you guys?
Yeah, mostly on Instagram is where we do most of our stuff. I'm at the pesky Mr. Mustachio, and then Strasser.
I'm at Joel Nert, JoelNert, and then we also have a joint account at Joel and Garrett. And some of our best stuff is on YouTube, by the way.
Check out the YouTube.
We got a lot of YouTube videos that are not just we recapped every episode of the race, but we got lots of really funny stuff that we think's funny anyway.
Yeah, if you don't think they're funny, then just laugh for us because we think.
But the YouTube channel is called Joel Nert, and there's endless entertainment awaiting you there.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for staying down with us today. Like, I could talk to you guys forever. You guys are so enjoyable, and you were so fun to watch and so great to talk to you today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been great talking to you. We appreciate you having us come on.
And I'll see you guys next time on Sound Podcast. We'll be covering season 36 of Amazing Race in just like a month or so. And see you guys next time. Bye.